You keep replaying it because part of you already knows they went quiet. You didn't know why. So you started running back through every conversation, trying to find the exact moment you went wrong. You checked your phone. Nothing. You sent one more message. No reply. Something in your chest tightened, and you could not explain it. You apologized. Maybe you weren't even sure what you were sorry for. But the silence was unbearable, and saying sorry was the fastest way you knew to end it. That silence was not their pain. It was their strategy, and you followed it perfectly. The moment they stopped responding, you handed over control. You didn't realize it. You were too busy trying to get it back. They didn't need to say a word. They never needed to, because your panic said everything for them. You started questioning yourself, going back over things you said, looking for where you went wrong. While they sat in complete silence, watching, you reached out again, maybe softer this time, maybe with a longer explanation, because something in you believed that if you just said the right words, the silence would finally end. It did not end, and the longer it lasted, the smaller you felt. That tight, hollow, unbearable feeling is not love making you desperate. It is fear, a very old, very specific kind of fear. The same fear you learned when someone important to you went cold, when disapproval looked like disappearance, when silence meant something terrible was already coming. They found that fear, and now they use it like a switch. There's a name for what is happening to you right now. Drop one word in the comments. Describe what their silence feels like. Just one word. You are not overreacting. You're not too sensitive. You are responding exactly the way anyone responds when someone they love goes cold without warning. The problem is, they are counting on that response. This is not about two people struggling to communicate. This is one person using their absence as a weapon against another person who actually cares. And the person who cares is always the one who suffers. Because caring means you can be hurt, and they know exactly how much you care. Think about what happened right before the silence started. There was likely a moment where you disagreed, or said something honest, or refused something they wanted. The silence did not start because they were overwhelmed. It started because you stepped out of line, and they needed you to step back. This is how it works. You push back. They go quiet. You panic. You reach out. You soften. You apologize. You come back smaller than before. Every single time you chase the silence, you teach them that going quiet works. You're not just being controlled. You're training them to keep doing it. And here is what makes it so hard to see. The person using silence against you is probably not doing it with some cold, calculated plan. At least not fully. For some people, going quiet is just what they do when they want control. It is something they learned a long time ago. It works, so they keep doing it. But just because it's not a conscious plan does not make it any less of a weapon. A knife is still a knife, even if the person holding it doesn't call it that. You recognize something in the first few minutes of this video. That familiar tightness. That story of chasing someone who goes cold on purpose. Comment, I see it if you have been here. There is a pattern here. And once you see the full shape of it, you cannot unsee it. It starts with something real. A disagreement. A feeling. A moment where you wanted something different. Something that made you human, not wrong. Then comes the cold. Not anger. Not yelling. Just nothing. And the nothing is worse than anything they could have said out loud. Because anger means they still care enough to fight. Silence means they can turn you off like a light switch. And that possibility that you could simply be switched off is unbearable. What you're living through has a name. It is called the quiet cage. It is not a cage with bars or locks. It is built entirely out of one person's willingness to disappear. The quiet cage works because human beings are not built to handle being cut off from people they care about. It is not weakness. It is how we are wired. Going cold on someone you know cares about you is one of the most powerful forms of control that exists. It requires no effort, and it leaves no marks. No one watching from the outside will see anything wrong. There is no bruise, no raised voice, just two people, one going quiet, one slowly falling apart. And here is the part that most people never reach, the part that changes everything. You cannot fix the quiet cage by being softer. You cannot fix it by explaining yourself more clearly. You cannot fix it by being more patient, more understanding, more available. Every time you try to fix it that way, you make it worse. Because you're rewarding the silence with exactly what the silence wants. More of you on worse terms. The way out of the quiet cage is not through the door they're guarding. It is through a wall they never expected you to walk through. That wall is indifference. Not pretend indifference. Not cold revenge. Real, settled, quiet indifference, where their silence stops being a crisis and becomes information. The moment you stop needing them to speak, the moment the silence stops hurting, the cage stops working. Because the cage only works if you want out badly enough to destroy yourself, try to leave. This is where most people get stuck. Because indifference sounds like giving up. It sounds like not caring. It sounds like losing something you still want. But indifference is not the opposite of love. It is the opposite of fear. And what is running you right now is not love. It is fear wearing love's face. Think about the last time they went quiet on you. Did you feel love? Or did you feel terror? Did you miss them? Or did you panic? Panic is not love. Panic is a wound being pressed. And they have learned exactly how to press it. Real love does not make you feel like you're disappearing every time someone goes cold. Real love does not punish you for speaking. Real love does not use your fear of being left to keep you small. What happens in the quiet cage is not love. It is ownership, and you have been letting yourself be owned. Not because you are weak, not because you are stupid, but because the person using silence on you found the oldest, most unhealed part of you, and they build a home there. That part you learned long ago that love comes and goes. That people who matter can disappear. That you have to earn your way back in whenever something goes wrong. And so you perform. You explain. You apologize for things you did not do. You make yourself smaller, softer, easier to handle, just to end the silence. Every time you do that, you confirm the story that wound told you. That you are not enough on your own. That you need to fight for the right to be loved back. Here is what is true instead. You do not need to earn the right to exist in someone's life. You do not need to beg for communication. You do not need to perform your worth under someone else's silence. The person who goes quiet to control you is not stronger than you. They are terrified of being held accountable. Silence is how they avoid the conversation they know they would lose. The moment you stop chasing, the silence changes meaning. It is no longer a punishment. It is a retreat. And retreats do not win. They went quiet. You almost broke. But this time, you see the cage. And you do not reach for the door. The silence stopped working the day you realized it was never about you. It was never about what you said or didn't say, what you did or didn't do. It was about keeping you in a state where you needed their approval to breathe. When you see that clearly, something shifts. Not anger, not revenge, just a quiet, settled understanding of what the silence actually is. It is not punishment. It is not pain. It is a performance. And every performance needs an audience. The moment you walk out of the room, not in rage, not in tears, just quietly and without explanation, the performance loses its stage. You're not required to stay in a room where your presence is being used against you. You are not required to earn the right to be spoken to. You are not required to break. Some people in your life will confuse your calm with coldness. Let them. Your peace is not a problem that needs explaining. And the next time the silence comes, and it will come, you will feel something different. Not panic, not urgency, just a slow, clear recognition that you already know what this is. And you already know what to do.